Yeah. Hello, everyone.
Good evening,
Hello,
sir.
sir. Hello,
Good
everyone.
evening.
Hey, Rohit. How are
Hello,
you
sir.
guys?
Good evening. Good.
I'm fine,
Good
sir.
morning from India.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, all. So, how are you doing, guys? Good?
We are fine,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
So, I have Anand with me. I think it's a great moment for me because I think we are meeting after 12 years. So we have stayed in touch, but I could see hear some background noise. So if you guys can go on mute. Yeah, thank you. So I met, we have been obviously in touch, but we are meeting again after 12 years. And I will tell you that when I picked him up at the airport, he hasn't even changed in last 12 years. So we will figure out what's his secret of keeping the status quo. Anand, we have Rohit with us. Rohit is the director for IIBM, and he's also an ex-cognizant. I was talking to him, and then we figured out that when he came, you exited out of OAM, and then I think you moved into delivery. Yeah. So I think he was also equally excited to have this conversation with you. So we'll start with a quick introduction of Anand, and then I have some questions, for him that will help us, hear from him about his experience, and talk about some of, his journey and his challenges. And then obviously we'll open up, for some questions at the end so that you guys get an opportunity to ask questions. But before I start, Rohit, why don't you do a quick introduction about yourself before I ask Anand to, start his.
Thank you, sir, for making us meet and interact again with you and with Anand, sir. And we represent Indian Institute of Business Management. The students who have joined today, there are a specialized lot which we have picked up, and Rakesh sir has also been mentoring them for quite some time now. We call ourselves SEDers as given by Rakesh sir. Otherwise, we will just SED Interns, Center for Entrepreneurship Development. So we are all enthusiasts from computer science as well as management undergraduate program. And we are not only just doing events and activities within the college, but we are also doing and making things possible in the side of CSR for school kids as well as developing websites. We have just started with developing websites for schools, and we are doing social media work, digital marketing work for a few enterprises here in Bihar. And very soon we'll move to mobile app development as well. We are working on that as well. So, and thanks to all of you that Rakesh sir and Anand sir, that we also tend to interact with people like you from this genre, that we can aim and think of being there one day on the other side. And I have been in the IT industry. I have also studied from the same college, and I have been in the IT industry for quite some time. I have left only in the year 2020. My last organization was DXC. And when I was in Cognizant, I was working under Ravindra Talwai vertical. And yeah, that's brief about me. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Rohit. So, Anand, first of all, let me thank you. I know it was a very jam-packed and tiring schedule for you. And when I told Anand that while we are going to enjoy this moment, I will also want to steal his hour so that we can have this valuable conversation. So Anand, why don't you start with a quick introduction about your current life and then also a little bit about your background.
Yeah. Hey, first of all, good morning to all of you. And more than you thanking me, I should be thanking you guys, for making best use of this opportunity. I just called Rakesh that I knew that he was in this area. Earlier I had met him in Philly a long time back, but I remember he's staying in Milwaukee, and I just happened to come to Detroit, so I just called him, and he was willing to host me here. And then he also told me about. In fact, he had shared with me the other video of about a couple of months back of your interaction.
Yeah.
I just had commented on the Facebook post that he shared with us. I mean, really, exciting to be here, to be part of this group of enthusiasts here. So going back, to about myself, I'm a mechanical engineer by profession, by education, and I've been in the industry for close to about 27, 28 years now. And I started off as a graduate engineer training in Larsen & Toubro way back in 95, 96. And of course, there were certain conditions that I had to meet. And for the first ever time, I faced the failure of flunking in my final year of mechanical engineering. So I had to kind of come back after 6 months. There was one of the conditions. But there was a very rude shock for me because I'd had a reasonably good educational, track record. And when it mattered the most, something happened. That was, I'll talk about it when we get further. But then about 10 years, I was in manufacturing industry. And as it was during the Y2K time, as many of the people were aspiring to be part of the IT bandwagon, so was I. But somehow I was a guy who had an appreciation for touch and feel kind of stuff, right? Coming from mechanical engineering. So I wanted to be on domain side, but somehow it didn't work out. But later on, it just happened, I was just catching up with Rakesh and we were discussing. Then while I was in mechanical field, I was part of GE Medical Systems and Tyco Electronics and a few other organizations like Closer and others. And then I got a good handle in terms of how a real discrete as well as a process manufacturing industry works. And then I happened to accidentally, came into IT. I joined HP, supposed to be a domain kind of a person, and then something did not work there, for which I joined. So I moved into IT service management area, process assurance and stuff like that. Then onwards, it was in 2005 where I shifted, exactly 10 years from the time I started my professional journey. And then from there on, I moved to Wipro and then moved on to Cognizant. I was there in Cognizant for about close to 16 plus years, actually. And over that period of time, I've done various roles, including process setups, and we used to call operations maturity, delivery excellence, delivery assurance. Then I thought, enough of preaching. I should probably practice what I've been preaching.
Walk your own talk.
And walk my own talk. It's always easy to give advice. It is the proof of the pudding is actually in doing things what you're preaching. So I moved into service delivery role, and then of course that was a great learning. In 2012, I moved into service delivery in cloud infrastructure and security area, And then I became a P&L leader. I went on to head healthcare business of about $160 million with about 3,000 people team size, and then just about a year back, it just happened that one of my earlier colleagues pulled me into another organization called Akkodis. It's a part of a large group called Adecco Group, over $25 billion group. And in Akkodis, I am responsible for the service delivery for North America. Right, I'm based out of Bangalore, by the way, in Karnataka, and I just happened to come here as part of my business trip, and here I am on Friday evening with you guys. Yeah. That's in a brief, journey. Of course, it's been pretty exciting. Of course, we've had our share of peaks and troughs, which always happens. Moments of glory, moments of I would say, a bit of disappointments. Yeah, but it's the way we respond and not react, which actually helps us move forward, right? So, yeah, that's about me.
Okay. Thanks for that introduction, Anand. I have actually got some questions for you. So, you had an impressive career journey from, your G to, Cognizant, and then becoming a vice president at Akkodis. Can you share with us some pivotal moments that shaped your career, and what lessons do you wish you would have learned earlier?
Yeah. So there were many. Of course, there have been many occasions in each of the organizations that I work with, be it small, medium, whatever, right? But the one thing that I always cherish all through my life is the tenure I had with GE Medical Systems, and I mean the real rigor of how an engineer should work. I mean, quote unquote engineer I'm using, because I was at that point in time a manufacturing process engineer. The eye for detailing, eye for details, the way we need to look at the data, and making objective decisions based on data rather than being subjective, and also how do we work under pressure, demanding situation. That was a university by itself. So and the velocity at which we need to really acquire new skills and deploy them, right? So and timing of those things. No matter what you acquire, but if you are unable to kind of do it at the right time, at the right moment, then it may not give the desired result. So some of these aspects is what I learned in GE, and even now I find it very, very relevant, right? So I would say of all the years of professional journey I had, the most enriching and also a differential type of experience was what I got in GE, working in GE. That's
so to summarize it, what basically you are saying that it's the ability to not only learn, but to also deploy your learning, but then also do it at the right time, right? Because if you need it, and at that time, if you don't use it, right, then it's of no use.
Yeah, that also makes one to be very open-minded, right? Not to be fixated about a particular technology, about a particular organization, about a particular set of people. I mean, it's one thing on a personal side to be having our own favorites, but when it comes to professional, the more open-minded you are in terms of everything, be it organization, be it technology adoption, be it the people with whom you want to work with, or who you are going to work for.
Yeah.
I mean, the more open-minded you are, the better it is. Your levels of disappointments will come down, and you see them as more of an opportunity than something that is going to drag you down. That's my take, actually.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. So a follow-up question to that, right? As someone who has transitioned across various roles and industries, how do you identify and leverage your strength to climb to the corporate ladder?
Yeah. See, when I joined Cognizant, I forgot when we went through one particular program. wherein which we learned a different perspective about our skilling. So far, even in GE or some other places, what we were told or what we were probably conditioned to understand was, hey, here are your areas of strengths, here are your areas of improvements, right? And typically, if ABCD are areas of your strength and PQ or XYZ are your areas of improvements, the focus was, or we were conditioned to think about areas of improvements, or you are probably what you are in a negative connotation, those where you are not strong at. How can you be made strong at areas that you probably are currently not strong at? Hey, you will probably you have to do X, Y, Z to skill up yourself. But then this particular, I think it was something to do with Dale Carnegie's this one, where a different perspective was told. See, sometimes you are so much wired, you are so much conditioned after some time that your areas of weakness cannot, at whatever effort you put, cannot become areas of strength. So it is better to look at your areas of strength and leverage them to your advantage than really trying to make your weaknesses as strengths, right? That's because true. You can make 2 up to 5, but 5 still is a mediocre. You have to reach 8, but your condition, your perspective won't allow you to get there because that's not what you are really wired for. So then better focus on areas of strength and leverage them to your advantage to kind of get to where you want to be.
Yeah, and I think I agree to that because it is also the input output ratio.
Yeah.
Right. You may end up spending a lot of effort in trying to work on your opportunities, but you will still not be able to generate that level of output, right? So yeah, I agree. So, and I think if you guys remember, right, in one of the seminar, this is absolutely resonating what I was also sharing with the students, that why we should focus on our strength and see how we can leverage that and sell it better than spending time too much on our weaknesses. Anand, I know Akkodis is at the forefront of innovation and technology, right? But what emerging trend in IT, it could be business or consulting industry too, that students should be aware of and how they can prepare themselves to be future ready?
Yeah, this is a very pertinent question. And, as many of you might know, data analytics and AI, these are the two really emerging technologies. And see, one may wonder, the same thing we had heard when the cloud also came. A cloud is a new data center. Mm-hmm. Everything moved to cloud. But we always knew it's going to be bimodal. You cannot really make it, completely zero. But when you really look at AI, there was some initial perception AI is also like, somewhat similar to that. Yeah. But as we see more and more of these technologies and the way it's being adopted, it's going to be highly disruptive, more disruptive than what any of the technologies have done so far, right? So, and there are a lot more use cases that keep generating every day in terms of how it is really going to be disruptive and impactful. And just before this session, when Rakesh and myself were talking about it, in fact, there is no sphere of life which is not going to be touched by AI, right? In some form, shape, or any other factor, right? So, I mean, one may want to have some skills developed in that, but at least people should be aware of it, so that you can actually figure out what your career path should be as far as this field is concerned. You may not choose to become an AI expert, but you can probably think of some adjacent skills or some complementary skills that probably would make you or keep you relevant in this changing domain, in the changing complexities of the world, actually, as far as skill set is concerned.
Okay. My next question is, This is around challenges and resilience, right? So every career has its share of challenge.
Yeah.
Can you share an instance where you faced significant adversity and how you overcame it?
Yeah. So, yeah, of course, quite a few of them, but the one that I can probably, um, if you go to the recency or something that can connect to is when I was going through those transitions of roles in Cognizant, right? As I was telling during my introduction, I was doing a function where it's about process setup, it's about setting a framework, defining a certain metrics, and advising people what to do, right? And then I had an aspiration to be part of a service delivery function where we actually are part of the delivery team where we are going to render services. I mean, for the students who probably may not be able to understand this, I'm just trying to elucidate this. It's like, one is more of a coaching, the other is actually practically doing things, right? So I got into a role where we need to practically execute what is there in the book. It's more about engineering and other is application. So that's where I thought it's not really easy. What we have been telling that we can do is not as easy as we are told, because when I was defining the framework, I was probably thinking only about our ecosystem, ecosystem of the organization that I am familiar with. But in fact, when we need to do all these things, we have so much of dependency on the external folks, meaning the customer processes, customer, stakeholders, and who probably do not care a foot about all these internal processes, right? So, I mean, as much as we do all these things with inward focus, how do we bring in that external perspective into what we are doing, right? That probably was missing in our approach, when it was all on a hindsight, right? So that kind of thing, when I transition myself from a role A to role B, the change in mindset that I need to bring in, because I was doing this role for so long that to switch over from that mindset to this mindset was really tough, actually. And I mean, there were several nights as to where I was regretting as to why I moved into this role, because I was very, very comfortable. I had a good reputation, image of what I was doing, but I probably jumped into something which probably could be seen as something where I myself failed in executing what I was coaching others to do, right? So that required a different mindset. So that was one of the tough times that I probably faced. And of course, then I realized, I had a very good team for me, and I had a good counterparts in on-site and other places. So then it also came to me, my mind that if you had a good team that can probably support what you are thinking, then it's much easier, right? So yeah, that's been. I don't know how much of that made sense, but that was something that I kind of navigated in my professional journey. Yeah.
Okay. So, in your view, how important is the role of failure in achieving success, and how should young professionals navigate setbacks?
Yeah. This is a very, very real and very, very pertinent question, right? So, um, see, of course, failures are, I mean, it's very well known that failures are the stepping stones for success, right? The earlier stages you go through the failure. Uh, See, sometimes it is told, when we, I mean, before I answer that question, uh, there's a saying about the managers. So you learn from good managers as to what you should be, but you also learn from bad managers as what you should not be, right? So similarly, when you talk about failures are really the stepping stone for success. It will show you what you did not do well, or what you should not probably did not think as plan B, or it can talk about your overconfidence. So there are so many things that probably that you will learn out of your failures. But most importantly, that as I said earlier, you should be open-minded. You should be open-minded to accept failures as learnings than seeing as the end of life, right? So there's nothing like that. Again, sometimes what happens is, when people are so very ambitious and they're probably, when they're in a hurry, right? They'll not be able to digest this failure. They probably overthink about these failures as though that's actually going to be the end of the life. But believe me, there's a long journey of, at least when you come to professional career, it's a long journey. It's a stepping stone. The more failures, nobody wishes to people to fail, but the more kind of failures that you probably face during early stages of your career, the more conditioned you will be to kind of ensure that you don't commit the same mistakes, or you're better prepared, or you probably start developing a plan A, plan B, plan C kind of stuff, so that you can minimize the impact of those failures. So that's the way I would look at it actually. And I must personally have gone through. I'm sure Rakesh, when he talks about, all of us would have gone through, right? That's why it's very important for us to be, do I respond to a failure or do I react to a failure, right? We should learn to be more responding. When I say respond, it's not a hit on the knuckle kind of a reaction, right? You should probably retrospect. That's a time for you to reflect. You should use that time for you to really take a step back, think, reflect, retrospect, and then shape up your next steps. As long as you use those opportunities of failure for you to kind of do this exercise, failures are really a big set of teachers for us to lead to a success.
I agree. I think in one of my session, I did share this with the students. I said, for me, failure is a growth.
Yeah.
Because it always makes you a better version of what you are, right? Because you have gone through so much of learning, you are actually growing, right? You are actually adding to your experience. So I absolutely attest that statement.
And also, I'm sure most of you have seen the Chichore film, right?
Chichore.
That's in its way is a good example actually as to,
Okay, so my next question is, what advice would you give to BBA and BCA students who are about to enter the job market, and how can they differentiate themselves in such a competitive environment?
Yeah, so see, as I said, right, it's a combination of BCA who are actually technical and BBA who are actually more on business. Regardless of whichever field you are in, there are 3 or 4 key things, right? One is you should be really, set big dreams for yourself, right? Where you want to be maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or such milestones you should have. It's important for you to be. And second thing is, it is just not enough if you have a dream, right? You need to also have what are the ingredients which are required to get you there, right? And all of them really require investment. When I say investment in self-growth. Not everything requires money. There's so many tools available around us, on your palm tap, this mobile, that you can always keep enriching yourself, right? And third thing is, whether you like or not, everybody should be at least technology aware, right? When I say technology aware, I'm not telling they should be specialist. You should probably be able to recognize the changes that are happening around us. Changes, technology driven, changes which are driven socially, right? There are so many changes happening around us that are going to really impact our career and growth, right? So as soon, the more aware you are about the changes happening, you will be able to tune up, tune down, dial up, dial down, whatever that is, right? Yourself. Otherwise, we can be, kind of outpassed by any of these things. And if you don't really, again, catch up some of these things early on, you may be losing that early bird benefit, right, of being there. So there are several people and also organizations which probably missed that technology buzz or the moment of success and moment of changes, and they ended up getting extinct in their businesses. I'm sure you know tons of examples, right? So that's why it's very, very important to be aware of, conscious about the changes happening around us actually, and then you can figure out, if you have a dream, if you are aware of the changes happening, then you'll be able to make changes to your stuff. Yeah.
See, I think one thing that I have noticed, especially in my experience, and this is I'm responding to the question around the competitive environment, right, and how they can keep themselves ready. I think along with technology, to your earlier point, whether you are a BBA student or a BCA student, I think business acumen would always give you that leading edge over the other candidates that you are competing with, right? Because there's going to be competition every time, everywhere, right? So apart from your skill, I think the changes that Anand is referring to, right, is the domain knowledge, right? So if let's say, for example, you are appearing for an interview for a bank, right? How much do you understand the banking process or the financial process, right? Is very important. If you are going to attend an interview for a manufacturing, along with your skills, if you also know the business, how it functions, or what are those different part of the businesses that a manufacturing unit goes through, right? I mean, they may have multiple business processes, a procure to pay, the entire supply chain. So I think you should also try to gain business acumen or business knowledge. Again, right? You do not have to be an expert, but I believe that will also give you a competitive advantage over other candidates who may only have technical skills or subjective skills. So that's the only thing that.
Yeah, and additionally, right, your appetite to be a student all through the life.
Yeah.
When I say that, you should be, open-minded to keep acquiring skills, learning. Learning could be from different sources, but that as much important learning is all about, you also need to be clear about what you should unlearn. I mean, especially when you get into corporate, and some of the things that you also need to do is, when you move from one role to another role, you probably have to unlearn certain things and learn new things. So yeah, learning is going to be something which is very, very a perpetual stuff that has to be there as part of our strategy. Nothing substitutes learning.
So Anand, this is a very interesting question. So if you were to go back to your college days, so I'm making you more young, right? What would you do differently to prepare yourself better for the corporate world?
See, what I'm telling now, right? The domain and the other thing, right? Probably, I don't know, for lack of guidance or see, many of us come from middle class family. I was probably the first ever guy who got into engineering. My father was in Department of Telecommunications in administrative role, and the family circle, nobody was there as an engineer, right? So that time it was all end all kind of thing. Hey, you got an engineering, so you'll become something. So, but we kept studying books. But all these things that I'm telling, right, being aware of the changes and being aware of, the processes, getting that mindset into you as a student at the student stage itself, some of those things were missing, right? And it's also to do with the kind of environment that we grew up and the kind of reach that we had for various aids, right? As is available today, probably was not available at that time. But that's not an excuse though, right? But if I were to be a student now and had all these kind of things, I would have chosen a different kind of an engineering project altogether, right? Probably something which is more application oriented than a bookish kind of engineering, and also probably I would have pursued some other writing a research paper or partnering with somebody senior to kind of get to some developing certain product. So there are tons of things that are probably available now that we probably were not exposed to that time for various reasons. Yeah. It may be that the environment that we grew up was so very internal focused that we didn't worry about those things. So there are so many tools and things that are available, which if you open our eyes and we want to do, we will do, right? Otherwise, we can continue to remain very, very docile and wait for things to happen. So that is something that I would probably change. I would have probably done differently if I were to be a student now.
Okay. So this is the concluding question, and then maybe we'll switch over to our setters to ask question. So if you could leave the students with one key takeaway from your experience, what would it be?
See, one is, I will tell two things actually. One is, you would have heard, change is the only perpetual thing, right? That's always there. The career changes that I've made, I would not have thought that I would do all these things. And I'm not telling I'm not the only unique guy. Rakesh is also there. Yeah. I'm sure Rohit would also be there. So we should all be ready to embrace change with open arms, right? When I say that, when you say change, that also drives a lot of other things. Then you should be, when you want to embrace, you should also be able to accept the changes, admit the changes, adapt to that changes, and you have to learn new things. So there are so many byproducts that come along with embracement of change. But as long as you have that willingness to admit the fact that change is the only permanent thing and you should always be ready to embrace change, then there's no reason as to why anybody will not be successful.
Thank you, Anand. I think it was definitely a wonderful insight, and I'm sure our setters are excited to ask their share of question. So I think let's maybe raise hand if you guys have any question, and then we can go one by one. Who wants to go first? Anshu?
Yes, sir. I want to ask how do you approach conflict resolution with a team or with a client?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It happens so many times. Yeah, see, again, when you get into a conflict, right? Again, one of the things that really comes to your aid is you have to be really objective. You cannot be subjective, biased, and ride emotions to take decisions. Of course, you need to be empathetic. You need to be mindful of the emotions and the feelings, but that should not come in the way of you being able to take a decision. So you have to have a data-based approach in terms of what really makes sense, and you have to weigh in the situation, and then and then be able to make a sensible decision, right? And always it may not. See, when you're doing a conflict management, it may not give you a perfect, a picture perfect solution, right? You have to do some bit of trade-off as well. Any kind of decision that you are going to take will probably adversely affect the other person, right? So it should not be seen as you are being favorable to somebody and not favorable, but it is the situation which demands, which probably has to do justice to either the individual or the organization or the customer, right? So you have to have some of these parameters, right, as something that will aid you to take a decision. mean, there's no one perfect answer for that, but you need to have these as the reference points and take a decision, right? So see, there are different type of, when it is involving people's emotions, people, then probably you need to be a little more softer than always being data driven, right? But when it is to do with, something to do with a deliverables to the customer and then take a decision, it has to be data based. So it varies from situation to situation, but but you need to do right thing than being, be seen as somebody who's a good person, right? You may not take a popular decision, but you will have to take a right decision.
Yash?
Sir, apart from data analytics and AI, what skills and quality do you suggest us to achieve in the early stage of our career that we can implement and see the importance and the significance in the future?
Sorry, come again. I probably didn't get the first part of it.
So the question was that apart from data and AI, what are the other areas or what are the other skill at the early stage that they can focus that in a longer term it can pay off?
See, I mean, when I said that, I only told in the context of the technology changes, okay? But in my opinion, I mean, whatever field that you get into, right? Be it in an industry or a domain or a whichever, there are a lot of things that are happening within the domain. For example, if you talk about any of the engineering streams itself, IT itself, AI is one component, okay? But you talk about security. There are tons of things that are happening in terms of the domain specific developments. If you are talking about some, I don't know much about the management stuff, but I'm sure if you talk about any of the other business enablement functions such as your accounts and administration, there are a lot of transformational stuff happening there, in terms of adoption of technology, right? So you should be able to kind of understand the domain specific changes that are happening and be able to kind of acquire skills that are relevant to that, right? It did not have to be, I just gave data and AI as the latest technological stuff, but those are not the only ones that probably you have to weigh in based on the industry, based on the functional area that you are going to kind of take up your professions in, professional jobs in, actually.
Nikhil?
Sir, I want to ask in corporate, what should we really focus on? Specialization of one skill or diversification in many skills?
See, this is, if you ask me, different people have different approaches to it, but it's always important for you. See, you can always be jack of all, master of none, okay? But I would rather say, if you want to kind of, see, when we talk about these tracks of career growth, you have a technology track, you have a managerial track, or whatever you want to call, right? Leadership track. So I would rather suggest up till certain point in time, it's important for you to specialize in certain things. As we say, the rolling stone never gathers moss. So if you want to kind of be seen as somebody who is really strong in even if you want to be considered for certain managerial leadership roles, right? While one is expected to have multiple kind of exposure area, but they also look forward to you as being specialized in one or two skills, right? So I could probably do, and I ended up heading a IT infrastructure kind of a business for healthcare without me having not much of earlier technology background in server or anything of that sort, data center management. But however, I was very strong in other areas that are required to run as delivery operations. It could be operational excellence, it could be delivery excellence. So you need to have certain deep skills in one or two areas, right? So that you can actually use those skills to come up to certain level. And if you really, kind of then, if you probably reach a stage of say 7 to 8 years and then want to decide whether you want to continue as an individual contributor with a deep technology skill, then you can continue to specialize, in adjacent or whatever you're into. Otherwise, if you want to kind of broad base your skill, then you can look at other aspects. Probably you are an individual contributor, then you can look at being a team lead. When you are going to be a team lead, you need to probably look at the aspects of people management, operations management, other areas. I mean, you need to also manage the client expectations. So some of these additional skills you need to probably acquire, right? So, but if you want to continue as a subject matter expert in a particular area, then you don't need to kind of focus on all of these things. You may still need to consider some of these things, but you can continue to be in a specialized role. So it all depends on how you want to diversify your role as you move along. But it's important to have a specialization in one or two skill sets, at least for initial part of your career.
Yeah, I think I agree with Anand. I think in the beginning, it may start with the specialization, but then as you grow, then you need to be more cross-functional, right? The more cross-functional you are, will help you grow bigger, right? Because your experiences are now across different functions versus just one skill, right? So one specialization can get you an entry point, but then from there, if you want to grow, then you really need to diversify, right? Which we call cross-functional, right? Cross-functional is basically you need to be aware of what are the different other stakeholders that are part of that ecosystem and how your services or your skills are going to directly or indirectly impact those different stakeholders, right? So that understanding will give you a diverse perspective, and that will help you in your growth within the organization.
Thank you, sir.
Any other question? We still have 11 more minutes. Mas?
Hello, sir. Sir, my question is, what are some of the best resources or you can say strategies you recommend for staying updated or aware in the latest advancement in IT?
See, there's no better tool than the mobile that you have on your hand, right? If you go to YouTube, there are tons and tons of material available, right? For you to acquire basic to even advanced knowledge, and many of them are really available free of cost, right? But sometimes what happens is you may be knowledgeable enough, but the prospects or the organization that you want to join, they also require you to have some sort of certification. That's the only time probably you need to go through some certification. Otherwise, you have a lot of this material available on the web now, right? Especially on YouTube, you name it, you have it actually. So otherwise, you also can get some of the courses in LinkedIn that are available for free, right? I mean, a lot of these things can be done over, mobile with all these implements at your time. It's all, anytime, any day. There's no limit now. Actually, you can
see. I think one of the thing I'm not sure if it would be too much at this time, but there are a lot of market leader analysis. Like you can look at Gartner, you can look at Forrester, you can look at Infotech. That could really give you an insight on a lot of these areas into where the industry is heading, right? Even from a product perspective or service provider perspective or vendor perspective, right? But I would say LinkedIn could be a very good starting point, right? If you spend time in just browsing through your network, right? There are a lot of articles, there are a lot of new disruptors that are kind of providing their white paper. That could be a good leading indicator for you to understand where is the industry heading, right? Now these days, if you look into LinkedIn, there will be like majority of the company telling you about their AI capabilities, right? So that means now you know that AI is now the hot potato and the talk of the town. Everybody's talking about AI, right? So that's one indicator for you to figure out that something is happening in this area, right? So I would say those are your those would be some of the um, starting points that I would go if I have to keep a tap on what's happening in the industry. And then if you want to go deeper, then you can look at market analysis data like Gartner and everybody else who can give you then a deeper view in that area, right? So let's say, for example, you are scrolling LinkedIn and then you suddenly see that, um, uh, to give you an example, right? 7 steps to become a CISO, right? See, I will tell you that technologies will come and go, but cybersecurity, in my opinion, will always have its relevance, right? Because end of the day, it is all about data, and cybersecurity is all about data protection, right? So that could be, if I was you, I would be definitely curious to see what this article has to say. Maybe at the beginning of your career, CISO is a long, uh, you know, um, goal, but then at least it will give you a lot of guidelines as to if that is what you want to be, what are those 5 or 7 steps, right? You can do CISSP for your awareness, right, on how does all the audit and security thing work, right? So that would be kind of my starting point.
But also, see, that is one, right? But also, the more network, the connect that you build with your fellow, amongst this group, right? And also somebody like Rakesh or somebody like Rohit or somebody, any other people like me. So you'll also get to know as part of your discussions, as part of your interactions. Of course, it may start as a very, very generic, high-level discussion, but as probably a couple of rounds of discussions and connects, it'll start narrowing down to certain areas of topics that are probably you are interested in, right? So, and then accordingly, as I said, and also Rohit Rakesh mentioned, on the net, there are tons of material available, right? So there's no need to even go to some learning platforms such as Pluralsight or Udemy. Even out of so much of curiosity, there are so many YouTubers who have put so much of tons and tons of contents. As a starting point, that is good enough actually. If you want to further reinforce your learning, your acquisition of knowledge to somebody else, then only you need the certification, right? So it's up to you as to how you want to kind of do that. So, but a lot of things are available at a stroke of a button, at a hit of a button, and free of cost.
Yeah.
Sir,
So,
like you said, on YouTube, there are a lot of things available, but there are also a lot of, like, everybody is saying like learn this, learn this, learn this. There are a lot of ads, everybody doing their ad. So how to deal with that distraction and choose the perfect one?
see, I think it's going to be an experience, right? Very soon you will figure out yourself, because one thing that you will see is first thing I will check on YouTube is when was this published, right? Because sometimes I don't want to read 5-year-old technology blog because it's no more relevant, right? And then watching some of the YouTubers, you will figure out who are the ones who are just trying there to make money or who are the ones who are really sharing the knowledge, right? So you will have to find your own, guru or master. So obviously you will end up with 10 or 5 different incorrect videos, but then I'm sure your 11th and 12th video would be the right video that you're looking out for, right? So it will all has to come through your own. So I'll do a quick time check because I know we have 4 more minutes and I would like to take one more question from Atul.
Yes, sir. So my question is, as our era is changing, world is changing, AI is evolving. So AI is capturing many sections of our uh, job sectors. So how to deal with that means, if we wake up next day, new technologies are got popular. How to deal with that and how to stay at the place we are and also continuously growing in that field.
See, see, this challenge will always be there. Okay, from the time we started till the time today, every day there's a new technology emerging. But again, you probably need to hold on to some area that probably is of interest to you, right? For example, if people may be telling 101 things about AI, but if you're interested about infosec, then that is something that you probably have to choose as your area of expertise. And there will always be an element of generic technology wrapper will anyway happen. For example, AI, if you talk about, AI is not AI is a technology by itself. AI is also is something that is going to be impacting every other domain actually. You don't probably have any domain that's not going to be touched by AI. So, but AI by itself cannot be anything. Okay, it is something that has to be applied in a particular domain, in a particular technology. So if we are good at probably a, in a particular technology, you can always enhance it by acquiring relevant skill sets in the area of AI. But if you want to make AI itself as a career, then you have data science could be another thing, machine learning could be another thing. So there are other different substreams within AI that probably can help you acquire new skills. Yeah. So as I said, the change. This is a challenge, right? In technology, if you want to remain relevant in the area of technology, you probably have to be observant of changes happening around you. And in that multiple changes that are happening, you need to pick up that one which is going to be relevant to you. Right? And as Rakesh said, that probably you'll have to acquire that skill as you go through your career, right? So, and for that, it's important for you to be observant, for you to be in touch with your some of the connects in the professional world or your work area and stuff like that. That will give you the trend actually.
Yeah, I think just to add to what Anand said, it is your focus is going to be your best friend in that scenario, right? I mean, when you have a lot of jewels around you, if you'll end up picking all of them, maybe, it's better to just focus on one area that makes more sense for you, right? And Anand also said, like, we all know change is inevitable. So we cannot avoid this, right? We are all living in an ever-changing world. Since, the first wheel was invented or fire was discovered, we are still discovering, right? So that is a challenge and we'll have to live with it. But rather than getting distracted and draining your energy out in multiple directions, just stay focused on things that you think you are good at. So I know we are top of our time. Rohit, any closing statements from you?
It was indeed insightful for all of us. Thank you once again. And I have just summed up what Anand Sir and Rakesh Sir was sharing in an image. I'm not sure if Rakesh Sir and Anand Sir can see that. I've just shared that in the chat.
Yep. Let me pull it. Yeah, I can see the thumbnail. Yep.
Yeah. And sorry, Anand Sir, I took your, without your permission, I took your photograph and I put this word art there with what all we have been hearing from the horse's mouth. And it was definitely a big boost to what the students here and the setters are doing. And it is going to set a milestone actually in their journey. This session of yours, the time that you have spent, although it has been a busy week, you have just come from a long journey flight and you are again spending time with us. Thanks a lot, and thanks to Rakesh sir. I'm sure that we are going to see a lot more coming from all of you, and your guidance and support will always be there with us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So thanks, Anand, once again.
No, thanks a lot. It was really, any day interaction with people is always going to be learning. I by listening to questions, some of things will have to come up with some, impromptu answer, but actually those things also will generate some amount of thoughts.
Yeah. No.
And thanks for being, patient listeners, and also be appreciative of whatever I shared with you.
Yeah, and I would like to thank all of you. I know it's Sunday morning, important weekend. So thank you for giving that time to us. And I wish you a very good day, rest of your day. And we'll talk soon in our next Fireside Chat.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Have a good
Thank you,
evening.
sir.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you,
Namaskar.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.